Hello. Yeah, you might have noticed that there's the fourth wheel is missing this week. It's not some kind of weird, crazy scenario where we're going to talk about any kind of weird stuff. It's football podcast time, but the man driving that machine normally is on his holidays. Um, probably several
Again,
beers deep. Yeah, again, yeah,
is
probably
is
several
that
beers deep by now.
is that the story we're going with, that he's on holiday?
Well, I did message him saying I was going to start calling him Judith because of the amount of time that he spends on holiday.
Oh, I thought that was just the name he was going to be using from now on, having had
Oh, well,
having had the operation.
maybe so.
No?
We can clarify he's not gone to Turkey, but they might do other operations in country he has landed in.
He
I
has
think
gone
we
to a
might
country that performs operations for a certain price that you can't get legally done in this country.
have we just set the new cookie cast record for going off track as quick as possible? Because I think we have. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for some football. It's the round ball, not the American sports ball. But yeah, we are here to talk some Nottingham Forest, probably slightly less or a lot less Middlesbrough than normal, and a good bit of Hull City. And of course, not forgetting Mr. Cook's boys. But will they remain Mr. Cook's boys this week? Wigan Athletic. We do have 7 games to get to, results wise, from last week, and a further 6 predictions for your listening pleasure for the coming week ahead. So, with a lot to get to, we'll dive into some results, and that starts in the Premier League, where Nottingham Forest took on Brighton. Mr. Moore, give us the lowdown.
Well, considering like most of the talk of before the match was, this is like from last season where we beat them 4-1 right near the end of the season where they were running out of steam and kind of trying to win an FA Cup and all that kind of thing. And we've neglected to realise that they haven't won since September and probably could do with a win. So come down to the City Ground, folks. That's giving away the ending though. So yeah, Forest had the ideal start. Like in the lead with like under 3 minutes through a Langer. Yeah, Gibbs White picked up the ball just inside the Forest half, tacked down the right wing, nice little cross, diving header-ish from Malanga at the back post. Good finish, cracking start, the kind of thing you want against Brighton that are quite a kind of sit back and absorb the kind of keep control of the ball and stuff, that kind of thing. And Forest were doing all right until they gave the goal back to via Ferguson. That was a nice finish with some shoddy defending, but a nice finish on the outside of the box, kind of just passed it into the back of the net. 1 each. Then, kind of just as the half-time whistle was about to blow, Forest decided to blow they'd already blown the lead, but then they decided to fully blow it by allowing João Pedro, who'd just come back on, to score with a decent. The header was decent. The defending was shocking. Gibbs White let him go, and Aina. I mean, I don't know what his attempt at trying to head that ball away was. It wasn't good. The second half, you think it's going to be a bit better. No, Chris Wood gives a penalty away for. It looked soft, and the Forest fans were annoyed about it. But it's given. I think I've said this most weeks. Every time. It's like Forest learned their lesson last year going into the Premier League about there's this thing called VAR, and it gives penalties when you commit fouls. And generally, the softer, the more likely they're going to give it. And Forest kind of did really well not doing that last year, and I've completely forgotten it this year because Chris Wood pulled on João Pedro. I mean, it was a bit of a tussle in the box. João Pedro threw himself to the floor. The ball was in the keeper's hands as he was going to the floor, so I had no chance of getting it, but the penalty was given. Tucked it away 3-1. Then the real kind of flashpoint was, and I watched the kind of commentary on it. It was like, oh yeah, that's a really bad foul. I'm blessed Callum Hudson-Odoi. He was desperately trying to get on the end of that ball, but unless he was 8 foot tall, which he isn't, and faster than Usain Bolt, which, spoiler alert, he isn't, all right, that ball was definitely going to the keeper. But Forest got the penalty. I assume Lewis Dunk, who made history, being the first person in 12 years to be sent off for who knows what he said to the referee. I assume it might have something to do with the Chancellor Exchequer, as in Jeremy Hunt. He may have a word that might have rhymed with that. Cheating might have been involved as well. But to be fair, Gibbs White did well, kept his cool because it took an age for him to get the penalty and tucked it away nicely. Celebrated afterwards, considering we were 3-2 down. I was like, yeah, mate, we know you just had a kid, but now you need to get on with it. And then, yeah, Forest laid siege to their goal. Ryan Yates had a really good chance, which the keeper saved well. A couple of other kind of opportunities to score, but Forest couldn't get that equaliser. And by the kind of reports, probably didn't deserve it, to be honest. And I think last week I said that Cooper was on the hot seat. It's now a very hot seat, I would suggest. Looking towards the predictions later, I would suggest that, these next 2 games are critical, I would say. So, yeah, so 3-2 loss, disappointing. Try not to get too disappointed because the teams below us are worse than us. But, yeah, I don't know. The fact that Brighton are 7th kind of made me less disappointed because I was like, they are a decent side. You know, so.
And that's insane, the fact that they're 7th, but haven't won since September. Like that, you know, they've obviously not necessarily been losing in all that time to still be sort of treading that kind of ground. But, like, I think that's it. You've got to put that in perspective, haven't you?
I think they had a really good start to the season. Yeah, they had a really good start to the season. But I think they won like 6-7 matches on the bounce. Looked like they won a lot of games early on in the season. They were pretty they were pretty high up in the league, weren't they? Kind of early on. So I think their drop's been not that far. I mean, I think kind of for people saying that the Premier League's good this year, I don't think the quality's quite as high as last year. So I think if Brighton had gone on this run of not winning since the end of September, they probably would have been a bit lower if the league was better. But I don't think the league is that good this year.
Okay, so a loss for Nottingham Forest to kick us off, but what would that mean for the points? Well, Paul managed to bag himself 2 points because he correctly predicted Gibbs White and João Pedro, but he did predict a draw, so that's where his points ended. I got myself 1 point for the Gibbs White goal. Did have Forest down to win though, so just the 1 point for me. Matt had also gone for a 2-2 draw, so no points there, but again, did manage to bag a point with Gibbs White. And unfortunately, for Mr. Positivity himself, didn't get the score and didn't pick a goal scorer. So Andy is on a big fat 0 to begin the week, points-wise. Second result on the list is the Bristol City versus Middlesbrough game. Now, obviously, Paul's not here to tell us how many blades of grass Jones covered this week. I'm sure normal service shall resume. The game did finish Bristol City 3, Middlesbrough 2, which sounded a little bit like a barnstormer, to be honest. It seemed to have a little bit of everything apart from the red card featured in the Forest game. But Gardner Hickman scored for Bristol on 37 minutes. And that lead was doubled by a Conway penalty just before half-time. Bristol going in 2-0 up at half-time, thinking, well, it's not looking that great for the Borough. Well, a Viner own goal on 50 minutes and then a Matt Crooks goal on 52 minutes managed to get things back level, within the space of sort of 7 minutes of the restart. So you're thinking, brilliant, looking all good here. Will they push on for the winner? Well, no, Bristol did, unfortunately for Paul. So Sykes scored on the 67th minute to make it 3-2 to Bristol. I say unfortunately for Paul. What I also mean is unfortunately for the rest of us. Everybody either had a Middlesbrough win or a draw. So there was periods of, we were cooking on gas up until minute 66. However, for 5 different goal scorers, granted one of them was an own goal, none of us picked a goal scorer either. So much like the Borough themselves, we end up with no points for that game. So the scores remain the same. Paul in the lead on 2, myself and Matt on 1, Andy to get off the mark after 2 games. So moving on, we had Swansea versus Hull City. Now, it was a very, very depressing start for the podcast teams, apart from Matt's, obviously, but for the Championship football teams on the podcast, because much like Middlesbrough, Hull decided it was a cracking idea to go 2-0 down. Patterson scored in the 17th minute, and then I mean I'm not sure why this name didn't come up, but somebody who plays for Swansea called Yates scored their second goal on 23 minutes, and it just went down to it was still 2-0 at half time. Now Rossignol decided that changes needed to be made. It obviously wasn't happy with the way the first half had gone. Decided that it needed to bring on Christie and Lakilo, and absolutely changed the game. Right decision. I should add as well, the Patterson goal was his first goal since March 22. So yeah, good one to pick when he plays one of our teams. And the Yates goal was a rare so far Ryan Allsop mistake. So the amount of times he saved us in a game, he actually ended up costing us a goal there, which is we'll let him off for now. But yeah, second half starts, the changes were rung and looked like a different side. Philogene scored his 4th in 6 games on 48 minutes. And then Tyler Morton scored his first club goal on 68 minutes to tie the score at 2-2. It was billed. It was probably going to be a bit of a game of possession, and for Hull's recent form, it was the rare occasion where the opposition actually had more of the ball. Swansea had 55% possession, but yet Hull had almost double the shots on target. So I guess that kind of shows you that they were intent on having a go at least. So yeah, the game finished at 2-2. So points wise, Paul managed to bag himself a point for the draw, and he also read that script, picked Patterson and Philogene, so managed to pick up 3 points from that game. I got a point for Philogene scoring. Unfortunately for Matt and Andy, both had 1-0 away wins and didn't pick the goal scorers. So Paul steps out a little into the lead with 5 points, myself on 2, Matt on 1, and Andy 3 games in, still looking for that first point. Now, we come to the Wigan game. Surely there's a point in this for Andy. It's his team currently. But what would happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it would be a 1-1 draw. Ford scoring for Orient to put them 1-0 up on 18 minutes. And Humphreys scoring for Wigan, again, right on the stroke of half time to level the score. I think they went in at half time and they're not really sure if they came out for the second half either side. It did finish 1-1. Be pleased to know Paul didn't get any points for this one, so he remains on 5 points overall. I, however, managed to pick a 1-1 score, so got the score bang on, so 2 points there, and picked Humphreys. So 3 points for me, leveling me up with Paul. And Matt unfortunately picked a 2-1 Wigan win. No goal scorers. Andy picked a 1-0 Wigan win, so no points there, and not the goal scorer either. So Andy, 4 games in on 0, Matt on 1, me and Paul on 5. That was all of the weekend games wrapped up. So we shall move on to some Tuesday night football action, where my team, Hull, took on Rotherham. I was in attendance at the game, and what a game to be at. Been saying for a little while now that like the way that they started to play under Rossini, playing out from the back, they just need to get the attacking part of it right. They're good at holding onto the ball. They just need to do a bit more with it. And if they can get that right, they might actually give somebody a pasting. Q Rotherham, again, though, was a little bit worried because they've not been on a great run of form, although they did take a point off Leeds last week. Come to the MKM Stadium, see what happens. So there was that kind of nervous energy, which was immediately put to rest as Tyler Morton opened the scoring on 5 minutes. Some good work by Liam Delap. Through ball, managed to try and almost get it around the keeper. Keeper did get the ball, but completely then flattened Delap in the process. But Morton was keeping up with play, thankfully, for a tap in from pretty much the centre of the 6-yard box to make it 1-0. Didn't rest on the laurels either. 9 minutes in, Philogene scored again. Now, if you're not even a particular fan of Hull, I would advise you to go and seek out this goal. I immediately sent it to all the guys after the game had finished. Some people will describe it as skill. I immediately said it was just a cheeky, for even trying it. So good work by Lakilo and Christie down the right-hand side of the field. Christie manages to get by his defender, passes to Lakilo, who found a pocket of space and swung it over to the back post at the left-hand side. The Rotherham defender could have quite easily have headed that ball out for a corner, but decided that it was a better option to just let the ball hit him in the back, and it completely killed the ball dead. Philogene was there, but with his back to goal, looking for options. It turns out that option was a back heel across the face of goal into the far side on the right, leaving the keeper and the full back four looking like a right set of idiots. The goal celebration was a bit cheeky as well. So after 9 minutes, Hull were 2-0 up and absolutely rolling. Again, didn't sit back on the laurels. Scott Twine scored after 20 minutes. In a similar vein to the first goal, good work by Liam Delap again. Threw on goal, had a shot that was absolutely travelling, definitely stung the keeper's palms. But again, the ball kind of stopped dead. Could have just have crept in. He did look a bit guilty for tapping it in, if I'm honest. But that's Twine up and running as well on the score sheet. It's his first for the club. So hopefully that'll give him a bit of a boost. 3-0 up in 20 minutes is absolutely unheard of, by the way. And that's how we got to half time. It was bizarre. The Hull fans in the North Stand singing "Mauled by the Tigers," which I know Paul particularly will have enjoyed. Being sung at the away fans after 20 minutes is still a very, very lasting memory from last night. But yeah, chance for Rotherham to reset. Probably had a rocket from their manager at half time, you'd imagine, and giving it the all, just win the second half. And that didn't particularly start well because 3 minutes into the second half, Philogene scored a second of the night to put Hull 4 up. They then finally decided that was probably time to start coasting a little bit. Let Rotherham back into the game. There was a lot of changes made, to be fair, which disrupted the flow of the team. But you could see that at 4-0 up, Rossini probably had an eye on Wigan at the weekend. Watford at the weekend. Started to make some changes. Hall scored for Rotherham, so unfortunately couldn't keep the clean sheet. I'd be surprised if you guys being geographically located where you are, didn't hear Allsop shouting at his back four as that goal crept in. He was not happy. But yeah, Hull had 2 or 3 more chances. Some good saves by the Rotherham keeper, who also was having a bit of banter with the family stand, which interesting. I don't know what the kids on the front row were saying to him, but yeah, he seemed to be enjoying himself. But the game finished 4-1 to Hull, which just nuts, absolutely nuts. Really, really enjoyable. It's nice to come away with that win and then actually still be happy about it the next day as well. We haven't given anybody a pasting like that for a while. So yeah, points wise, Paul gets 1 point for the win and 1 point for Scott Twine scoring. I got 1 point for the win and 1 point for Morton scoring. Matt got 1 point for the win and 1 point for Philogene scoring. Andy, your time has arrived, my friend. You have got a point. You're off the mark for the week. So totals at this point: myself and Paul on 7, Matt on 3, and Andy, like I say, off the mark now on 1 point. Right, moving into the penultimate result from last week is Middlesbrough versus Preston North End, and Hull weren't the only team to score 4 goals on Tuesday night because Middlesbrough managed it as well, running out with a 4-0 win. Jones bagging himself 2 goals. He scored the first on 16. Vandenberg scored on 26 minutes. Jones again on 37 minutes to take them 3-0 into half-time. And then they decided to do absolutely nothing until the 4th minute of injury time, where Bangura put the 4th in. Paul got 1 point for the win here and 1 point for Jones. I got 1 point for Jones scoring. I had gone with a draw, so yeah, more fool me. But then there was a point for Matt for the win, no goal scorers. And Andy, another point for the win. So here he goes, he's rolling now, doubled his points now. So that puts us on to Paul on 9, myself now behind on 8, Matt on 4, and Andy on 2. Now, the last game of the prediction from last week was Andy's team, Wigan, taking on Fleetwood. Again, heavy goal scoring night on Tuesday. Wigan put 3 past Fleetwood, ran out 3-0 winners. However, they were aided by the fact that Fleetwood had a man sent off just before half-time. Although, at that point, we're already 2-0 up, as Jones wasn't just content with scoring 2 for Borough. He also apparently popped up for Wigan, with Jones putting the first one in on 4 minutes. There was a Lynch own goal on 31 minutes, and then into the second half, playing against 10 men, Pearce put the icing on the cake in 61 minutes to make it Wigan 3, Fleetwood 0. That did, however, points-wise, mean Paul got none, didn't predict the win, didn't predict any of the goal scorers, and the same for me, which means that I couldn't catch him. Matt, you did pick up 1 point for the win, taking you on to 5, and Andy picked up another point for the win, but no goal scorers. So, total points for the week, for week 17. Paul did win the week on 9. He's not here, so it doesn't count. It's all null and void. Nobody ever needs to speak about this again when he gets back. I'm sure that it's not like, oh, wait a minute, this has been recorded. Never mind. I finished second on 8. Matt on 5, and Andy managed to triple that solitary point and get himself on to 3. So, a lot of results. There's also a decent amount of predictions this week as well. Despite the fact that he is now an international man of mystery, Mr. Williams has submitted his predictions ahead of time. So we do have that to bring to you. And we will get into those predictions for all of us right after a very small break. Don't run away, just blink, and it'll be time for the second bit. See, told you, blinked, and we are here. So yeah, it's time to get into some week 18 predictions. Now, we've got quite a full slate. it does start a little closer to home for Mr. Cook and Mr. Williams, if he can be bothered to drag his ass back from his international adventures. And that starts on Friday night with York versus. This is conflicting, Frandy, because which team are your boys in this game? Is it the hometown, or are you going to stand by Wigan?
I mean, there has been a conversation about potential attendance of this game. I'm absolutely not going in the away end. So I guess that kind of answers that question.
Okay, right.
Podcast loyalty versus,
it's one of them where if whichever team wins, you're going to be then following them going afterwards anyway. So you're all good on this one.
chicken dinners all around, isn't it?
So yeah, York versus Wigan. Now, as Paul has given me his predictions and he's not here, we'll let him go first, and Mr. Cook will obviously go last. So Paul has predicted a 3-0 Wigan thumping of York, with Humphrey to get 2 and Wyke to get the other. Now, I don't want any snarky comments because mine were already in the book before Mr. Williams came through, but I had also picked I'd also picked a 3-0 Wigan win. Humphreys to get 1, Adiko to get 1, and Lang to get the other. So Matt, what is your predictions?
I've gone for a Wigan 2-1 win.
Okay.
With Wigan, for the Wigan goal scorers, I've got Jones and Wyke.
Yep.
And the York goal scorer, just because it tickled me, John Lewis. Not his name, literally the surname. John Lewis. And I was like, yeah, that one's straight down. Get that one in.
Going straight in your basket. Andy, round us out.
So I've gone with a 1-0 York win. Yeah.
Okay. Who's your goal scorer?
Henderson.
Okay. Obviously, not busy enough in Saudi Arabia to just come and make a guest appearance for York. Okay. Those are in the book. So the next game on the docket we have is Hull versus Watford. Another game I will be in attendance at. So Paul has given us his prediction of a 2-1 Hull win with Tyler Morton, Liam Delap to score for Hull, and he's got his Sema on for Watford. So 2-1 for Paul to Hull. Matt.
Ditto. 2-1.
Oh, so he obviously sent you the predictions as well then, right?
And I've gone Delap and Philogene for Hull.
Yep. Yeah, I've got that one.
Bayo for Watford.
Bayo.
Yeah, Bayo.
Quality. I should add actually from the Hull stuff before, for the fact that Philogene put 2 away last night. I know we don't talk about goals in games anymore. It's goal contributions. So he's now got 5 assists and 5 goals in his last 10 games.
What's his
Andy,
expected goals and assists?
I mean,
Most ridiculous stat ever.
That irritates me as well. Surely, as a footballer that's an attacking player, your expected goal should be at least 1 every time you play.
Oh, but what did you expect to get?
You lost 3-0, but what did you expect was going to happen? Andy, what's your predictions for Hull Watford?
Just nice and clean 1-0 Hull win.
Okay.
With Hull's favourite Connolly to score that goal.
Okay, he did make an appearance off the bench last night, so he has a chance for the weekend. I have not gone as optimistic. I have gone for a 1-1 draw, with Tufan to score for Hull, and you all missed the all boy rule because they've got Tom Ince. So I've got Ince for Watford. So we shall see. We've won the last 3 home games. 4 on the bounce is a stretch. We shall see. Okay, so the next one is Leeds versus Middlesbrough. I've gone down for a 2-1 Leeds win here. Nothing to do with Paul not being on the podcast at all. I've got Pirot and Rutter to score for Leeds and Isaiah Jones to carry on his goal scoring form for the Borough. Andy?
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, here it comes. He's going to predict some ridiculous number of goals. I am not as predictable as that. 5-0 to the Borough, please.
Seriously as well.
I've got 2 for Latte Laugh.
Yep.
1 for Silvera. And 1 for Rogers. That's not 5, is it? That's 4.
Yep.
No, I had 2 for Silvera as well, and 1 for Rogers. Sorry, I can't read my own typing, not even handwritten.
So 5 goals Leeds would have been absolutely Rogers. Matt?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, okay.
Pirot for Leeds and Vandenberg for Borough.
Okay, so not in attendance, but has sent the predictions. Like I said, predictions are last. It's his team. Them's the rules. Paul has gone for a 2-2. He's gone for Bamford and James, which, if both of those players score in the same night, there's some sort of absolute shit show happening somewhere. That is not a pair of players that people are happy about. But he's also gone with Latte Laugh and Crooks for the Borough to hopefully get himself a few points for the book and a few, 1 point obviously for his team. So next, which I believe is the late game, isn't it? Is it?
It's like the middle game. Like I don't know. What is it? The third of the quarter of quintet of games on a Saturday. You have your lunchtime game, your 3 o'clock game, your 5:30 game, and then your 7 o'clock game. Something like that on a Saturday.
It's just basically Sky going football all day.
Here you go. We'll inject it into your eyeballs. It's Clockwork Orange style.
So yeah, you might have guessed. The next game is and quite a big game, I would suggest. Forest versus Everton. Again, Matt will go last on this one. Paul has given us a 1-1 draw from afar with Gibbs White and Calvert-Lewin, because clearly we can only deal in hyphenated surnames at this stage. Andy, what have you got?
I've also got a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I've got Wood.
Of course.
And I've gone with McNeil.
Okay. I have got 2-1 Forest win. Optimistic on this one. I know Everton have had all that crap going on with the points as we discussed last week, but they had a chance. They had lots of chances against Man United last weekend, and could still have been playing now and not put any of them away. However, I have given them a goal in this game, but I've gone 2-1 Forest. I've got Elanga, and much like Andy, I too have Wood, and I've got Harrison for Everton. Matt.
I've got a bad feeling about this game. It just doesn't seem right, and it's the ultimate old boy rule. When the manager was an old boy, and Sean Dyche wasn't a Forest old boy. But at what point does Wood become a Forest? When have you got 3 lots of Wood, does that become like a Forest? So yeah, I've also got Wood down as well.
Okay.
And I've got Calvert-Lewin and Decore.
Okay, so you've gone for the reverse result of mine then, yeah,
I've gone for
1-2.
the opposite. Yeah, 2-1 Everton win.
With Wood, Calvert-Lewin, and Decore. It's a weird one, that, isn't it? Because like with the points deduction, you almost feel like now it's either going to be the best time to play him or the worst time to play him. And I don't know if it makes it worse that they got spanked last weekend by United. And that was never a 3-0 game either, if you saw any of it. Like Everton were all over them for a good portion of that match.
And that's the worry, is that Forest have looked really poor in defence. I mean, if anybody, I mean, why the hell would you? I messaged you lads last night. I was giving myself a metaphorical punch in the bollocks because I decided to watch the Forest highlights after being like, I can't be bothered, and I thought, probably should, but there's just you can't get the defence right. Murillo is quality, like absolute quality. I think Brighton got the ball on the break, and Pedro was clean through in injury time, and it was like I can't think. I think Gibbs White or Hudson-Odoi was chasing back, and then they obviously just ran out of steam. So then Murillo, who'd just been kind of gently jogging alongside, then put on the afterburners and slid on and just made the challenge on João Pedro, and you're like, that's quality. But they just can't get someone to go next to him, and the wing backs are shocking, or the full backs are shocking. They just can't. They just don't defend. And Everton are tall. They're a typical Dyche team now. They're tall. They're strong. They pump the ball into the box and they hope that they get lots of headers and score goals. I just think that could be Forest's downfall unless he makes some significant changes. I would hope that Yates will be back in the team this week, but who knows?
I was working more on the basis of they gave that last game everything they had in the face of what had happened with the points deduction and got absolutely ruined.
Hopefully,
So
it just kind of knocked the stuffing out of them. But God, if you heard
yeah,
all the other footballers going on, oh, he's just the right person. He'll get them all. Siege mentality. Batten down the hatches, boys.
yeah,
Don't cheat. Don't spend too much money on players that you haven't got. You div. That's how it works.
is correct. Right, okay, so we've got two more, and we've actually inadvertently double forested. So we triple wooded to make the forest, and now we've got an extra forest game straight off the back of the last one. Um, I believe, is it Wednesday night, this one?
Yeah, annoyingly.
So yeah, Wednesday night, Fulham at home to Nottingham Forest. Paul was clearly watching the Forest Wolves game from earlier this week, seen the fact that Fulham hadn't had a penalty all season, and then got two in the same night. And Willian takes their penalties. He has got 1-0 Fulham with Willian to score. So I'm assuming he's basing that on the old penner. I've gone slightly more optimistic than that. We discussed previously that Forest haven't had an issue scoring goals away from home this season, but I have got a 2-2 draw for this one. I've got Jimenez and Pereira for Fulham, and I've got Danilo and Gibbs White for Forest. Andy?
No, Forest win.
1-0, is that?
Yes, please.
Okay. And has he done it again?
No. I won you.
Oh, is he
No,
back?
no. He's out for 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Damn it.
Oh,
Then, yes, he's done it again.
he's triple wooding himself. Sounds like a good Wednesday night. Okay, down then for 1-0 Wood. So Matt, what have you got?
I've gone for a hopeful 2-2 draw.
Ooh, same as me. Okay.
I've gone Willian and Iwobi.
Yep.
And then Elanga and Morgan Gibbs White to score.
It will be had a good game in that Wolves game as well the other night.
Yeah.
I know it sounds sad, but I've played quite a lot of the new FC 24, and the players that have ended up in my ultimate team through the cards thing, I've ended up actually watching out for during games. And Iwobi, for whatever reason, was one of the special cards that you got. And he's he was doing pretty well the other night. Okay, so the last game for predictions this time around, we've gone from first to last because Wigan are back again, and this time they are at home to Stockport. This is in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy slash, yeah, whatever it's called these days. So yeah, League One Wigan take on League Two Stockport. Paul has gone for a 2-1 Wigan win, with Jones and Lang to score for Wigan, and Madden switching from the American Sports Ball for one night only to score for Stockport. I have gone for a 1-0 Wigan win, with Godo to score for Wigan. I'd love to know how it was pronounced, but in a Hull accent, Godo just felt the absolute one to pick. Matt?
Can we rename this the Another Trophy Newcastle Can't Win trophy? After their under 21s got knocked.
That gets confusing because then they're all called that.
But this is another one. They've allowed under 21s to enter this year, and they can't win that either. So we'll just add that into the list. I've gone for a Wigan 2-1 win.
Okay.
With Wyke and McManaman. And Stockport Olafe, or Olafe, yeah. Olaofe.
Lappe.
Olafe, yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so Andy, from like I say, from first game to last game, last predictions of the podcast fall to you, sir.
Little known fact: this is actually a Cook derby. This one, however, I picked Wigan to win 1-0, purely so I can predict Stones to score a goal.
Yeah, I'd started to write that. When I saw that getting thrown up, I was like, yeah, he's going there. So all the predictions are done. That is it. 6 games. As yeah, there's gonna be a lot of football. I didn't expect cheeky 2 games in the middle of next week either. So there is a lot of football going on. Has anybody got anything else? Oh, Matt's straight on it. Go on, sir.
I've got 2. First one is the announcement, was it today or yesterday, about the possible using sin bins
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
in football. Paul Merson's had a reaction to it. I don't know. Part of me kind of is like, maybe it's something we need to try out just to kind of stop some of the stuff that's not a sending off. It's a booking, but it's not like, if you get booked twice, sometimes some of the stuff is not a 2 booking, like sending off kind of offence, and maybe they need to use something like that. Or yeah, I don't know. I don't have a massive issue with it if it helps kind of improve the game or streamline it or something like that. I don't know.
I think my worry with it would be is that, like, after all the fuss of VAR, it was like, we're going to introduce it and we're going to see how it goes. And I think they're already too far in with it now that they won't remove it for all of its failings. I just can't see it happening. And I would worry that the Simbin thing would be put in on the same basis of a trial, and then they would just never take it out again. I would also worry that the two would mix, in the sense of, then do you have to use the VAR to decide if somebody's getting Simbinned, not sent off? Injury time then up to a minimum of 20 minutes per game. Like, for me, this is probably a really old school way of looking at it. Football is a really simple game. Really simple game. Aside from the fact that offside is pretty much the only rule, everything else is don't deck the other guy.
Yeah.
and try and don't let the other guy try and put the ball in the net. That is it. And like I say, an offside, I like it's not a complicated game, but they want every like the sin bin thing. Sorry, the VAR thing I think was brought in to try and make it almost perfect. I don't know that the sin bin thing works for me on the basis of like it's still supposed to be 11 versus 11 unless somebody's really done something bad.
Yeah.
I'd just rather it. I'm not against it as such, and at the end of the day, it's not for me to decide. But I would rather it stay as it is
Yeah.
personally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I
To
think
be
my
interesting to
question
see how
would
they
be,
need to work.
what does it add?
I think the thing is sometimes is some games can be ruined by either someone being sent off or someone being carded for things that probably don't warrant being sent off. I mean,
Like
maybe they
kicking the
could use
ball
it
away,
to.
maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe they could at some point. Uh, Maybe at some point they could kind of use it for dissent, because I think that's the biggest blight on football aside from VAR is the way. And I know it's like, oh, it's the way footballers always talk to the referees, and you're like, yeah, and that's a problem. The way the way the players talk to referees is bad. It then transfers to Sunday League, and then it transfers down to schools. And the kids speak to each other and teachers and coaches as if they're a professional footballer talking to a referee on a Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Friday, because they see it all the time, and I just think it's just wrong, and I just hope if it's used in that situation of right dissent towards a referee, here's a sin bin, because it's not really sending off, but it's you need to kind of take some time off, then kind of thing. But I don't know, it'll just be another thing for people to whinge about, and I think that's the major issue for it.
Mm. I think when it happens in rugby, for example, like it's a huge thing and it can massively affect the game. Like by the time they come back on the pitch, if like another 5 or 7 points or whatever have been scored, like I don't know if I don't know if football has the same kind of.
Well, no, you look
I
at
don't.
Forest, Brighton were down to 10 men for what, 15, 20 minutes, if not longer. And
Mm.
Forest still didn't score, apart from the penalty that they'd already been given. So,
And how often do you see it as well, where teams get a man sent off and then play out of their skin?
yeah,
Like sometimes you wouldn't even know that they're missing. So it's it's plus like the cat. You'd have to then almost have like a third category, wouldn't you? You'd have like yellow card offences with a sin bin, yellow card offences maybe without a sin bin, and then like your red card stuff. And then like how does it work then if you've already got a yellow, but then you get like a sin bin effect? Like are you still? There's a
yeah.
lot of complications to it.
I know, like in rugby, if you get a second thin bin card, which is effectively what a yellow card, that's what a yellow card is in rugby. They don't have a yellow warning card.
Yeah.
You just get a warning from the referee, and if you get two, if you sin bin once and then you get another yellow card, they just send you off.
Mm.
That's it. You just sent off because it's two bookable offences. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to implement it and what it's going to be used for. But yeah, I thought
So
that
that
was
was number
the.
one. So what was number two?
And the second one's a bit of a kind of melancholy kind of thing. Is the passing of Terry Venables. Not obviously never managed Forest, never managed Hull, but was England manager for Euro '96, which was kind of the previous best. Aside from the World Cup, which we weren't alive for, unless anyone's got any dark secrets. It was the previous best to what an England team had done, and I think that kind of like went because it was in this country. It was that kind of, I don't know about possibly you. I mean, the 1990 World Cup resonated with me somewhat, but 96 was like the first kind of real time that like international football had kind of stuck with me and all that type of thing. I mean, and obviously, like his managerial career in Barcelona was something that was quite unique at the time, and he did very well. And then, I mean, obviously Paul's not on, but he could talk about the job that he did with Brian Robson with Middlesbrough to keep them up that year. That Brian Robson was, I think he was a new manager, kind of player coach. And he worked with Brian Robson that year to work at Middlesbrough to kind of keep them up. So, and just a kind of one of those players that I think as a player as well, again, when it comes to this kind of thing, I go to my dad and he's like, oh, yeah, he was an absolutely quality player. He was just lost in the kind of a little bit too late for 66. Not quite, the teams weren't quite good enough after that kind of that first golden generation of England players. But he was like, oh, yeah, he was absolute quality. But that kind of had his career ended early because of injury again, kind of thing. And just that kind of, but yeah, so sad passing, kind of a proper character of English football kind of thing.
Yeah, at the Hull Rotherham game before kick-off, there was a minute's applause, and they had the picture up on the screen, and in the black and white, and they did pay tributes then. But I'm very much the same. Like that Euro '96 tournament was the first time I remember getting excited about international football. Particularly that Holland game was the one for me that year. But I always remember him being like a fairly like level-headed guy, like to the media, which I think a lot of managers in this day and age could do to maybe take a leaf out of that book.
Yeah.
I would bet the absolute house that he wasn't as level-headed and quiet and what have you behind the in the dressing room. But yeah, I agree. Like he kind of, for me in my lifetime, this is the first memorable England manager because of the way he conducted himself. Just a proper gent, and apparently a dab hand at the old karaoke as well from the tributes I've seen since. Good set of pipes. It said he passed away after a long battle with illness as well, and he kind of I hadn't even seen any of that. It seemingly managed to keep that private as well. So again, one of the few that's been in the spotlight and has managed to keep his private life private. So
Yeah.
Definitely exemplary all round, I believe. Anything else? We good?
No, that's it.
All right, Mr. Cook.
Just when you were saying about 96, I was like, I think it's been discussed before that I've had a bit of a up and down history with football. In my younger days, I was absolutely mad. Football is all I did, all I cared about. And then it sort of like went away. But I had a Euro '96 T-shirt, and I can remember every detail of that T-shirt. And exactly like you, I was like, I remember that being the first point in time where I actually cared about international football. Sort of brought me back into sort of football. I remember like my whole family being there for the Holland game, and it was just like there had been nothing bigger at that point in time. There was nothing bigger going on at that point in time. It was just everything, and just the tension and the feel of it. It was like, wow, this is intense. So yeah, like when that like when it came through on messages, like, oh man. So yeah, sad times.
It's another one of them sad times for football, sad times for us, but it's also like a bit of a kick in the childhood as well, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, that is your football podcast for week 17 leading into week 18. Unless Customs have their wicked way with the man, I am sure Mr. Williams will be back in the saddle next week. If he sat slightly higher than normal, you know that Customs have paid him a visit. Anyway, we shall see you next week. Enjoy all of the games this weekend, and catch you later.